Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2 Unit 4.7 Notes, day number 2. Let me get to my ink. Where's my ink? Come on. Okay, day 2. So we're still talking about graphing quadratic equations in standard form. Okay, so let's review. Remember that standard form is when f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And we talked about using a table. So on the right side, or the left side, I'm going to zoom in and to solve. So to figure this out, all we would do would plug in each one of these numbers and square it. We talked about this yesterday. Okay, so negative 2 squared, negative 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 1 squared is 1. 0 squared, 0. 1, 4. Okay, this was our standard graph, quadratic graph. And, sorry, I'm going to use a different color here. So we started 0, 0. We talked about going from here to here, and then 2, 4. There it is, 2, 4. Okay, so here is our parabola. It is a U-shaped. Okay. We talked about the axis of symmetry, which is the vertical line that cuts through the vertex. Okay. But then we also talked about the pattern. So the general pattern for the first 5 points on a parabola, if a equals 1, and this is all from the vertex, if this is where we start, if it's positive, I went up 1 over 1, and then I went up 4 over 2. Okay, so from vertex, when it is positive, I'm going to write this in blue because blue is positive, we went up 1 over 1, up 4 over 2. Okay, so that's if a is 1. What happens if a equals a negative 1? Well, if it's negative, that means it opens down. So from the vertex, we would just do the exact opposite. Instead of going up 1, I'd go down 1 over 1, or down 4 over 2. Okay? And that's if a equals negative 1. Okay? And just remember, from your calculators, you can go into y equals, oh, sorry, let me just clear that. Type in x squared and you can graph to see what it looks like. Okay? You can also go into your table to look at your points. Okay? So now, let's look at this. Instead of having a 1 out front, now we're going to have a 2 out front. So if I'm trying to find out what these are, I would have 2 times negative 2 squared, 2 times negative 1 squared, 2 times 0 squared, 2 times 1 squared, 2 times 2 squared, to figure all those out. I like to start in the middle real quick. So 0 squared is 0, and 0 times 2 is 0. 1 squared is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. And that's what our other one's going to be. 2 squared is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so let's do the same thing. We're going to graph those. Once again, we're starting at 0, 0. And now I'm at 1, 2, and negative 1, 2. And then I'm at 2, 8, and negative 2, 8. So here is our new graph. Our new parabola looks a little bit different. And our pattern is different. So instead of going up 1 over 2, I went up 2 over 1. And then I went up 8 over 2. So we have a new pattern if there's a different number in front of it. So the general pattern for when a equals 2, okay, once again, we're talking about from the vertex each time, I would go up 2 over 1, up 8 over 2, okay? And then we would do the same thing if a equals a -2 from the vertex. We would just do the opposite. We would go down 2 over 1, down 8 over 2. Okay? Sorry. I want to make sure. Oh, come on. Okay, so from the vertex, if it's negative, we would go down 2 over 1 or down 8 over 2. All right, so what we're asked to do is we need to graph the following quadratic functions, sketch the axis of symmetry with a dashed line, and write its equation. All right, so we got a lot to do, but don't worry, it's not too bad. So we always want to know where our A, B, and C are, because when we're trying to find the vertex, the first thing we do is we take the opposite of B over 2 times A. Well, the opposite of B, if it's -8, it would be a +8. And there we go. So we would have 8 over 2 times 2, which is 4, which is 2. Okay, now that 2 is important because when I come down here for the axis of symmetry, that's my equation, x equals 2. Now, after I find 2, I need to figure out what my vertex is. So I know that my x value is 2. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to plug in 2, 2, 2. You can do this by hand or calculator. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, minus 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1. And then we get that h of 2 equals -7. Okay, so our vertex is the point 2, -7. Okay, and this is super, super important. So the graphing you can do a couple different ways. Okay, I like that I know what my vertex is, or I'm sorry, I know what my axis of symmetry is. I like to draw my axis of symmetry first. You can do that first, you can do it second, last, it doesn't matter. Okay, but now we're going to graph. So my vertex is 2, 7 to -7. All right, and I'm sorry, one of the first things I should have done was to look. I have a positive A, so that means I'm going up. So when I do my pattern down here, I'm going to be going up 2 over 1, up 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over 2. If I draw that axis of symmetry right away, it's easy for me to go 1, 2, 1, 2, and to do the same thing on both sides. Okay? And then after that, we're just going to try to make it nice and smooth. If you want to do half and then half, that's great. And then make sure to draw your arrows so we know that it keeps on going. Okay, so we have our A, let me go up just a little bit, A, B, and C A is negative, so our parabola is going to be going down. And now let's find your vertex. So we got the opposite of B over 2 times A. So instead of negative 12, it's going to be a positive 12, and underneath it's going to be negative 2. So we have 12 over 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, which is a negative 3. So right away, my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. Okay, so now I'm going to find out what my y value is for my vertex. I'm going to plug in negative 3. So negative 2 times negative 3 squared minus 12 times negative 3 minus 9. So negative 3 squared is 9. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Negative 12 times negative 3 is a positive 36 minus 9. So when we do that, we get negative 18 plus 36 minus 9 is a positive 9. So my vertex is the point negative 3, 9. Okay, so at negative 3, that's my axis of symmetry. I'm going to draw that in right away. And then I'm going to negative 3, 9 is where I start. Negative 3, positive 9. I'm doing the opposite now, so I'm going down 1, or down 2 over 1, and then down 8 over 2. And then as I draw this, I'm making sure it's curved, it's not a V. And there we go. Okay. So it's in order, A, B, C. Negative, so that means we're going to be opening down. X equals the opposite of B, 2 times A, and then you need to plug in once you find what X is. Okay, so let's see, can you figure out what the vertex is in the axis of symmetry? We'll find out. Go ahead and pause the video, and good luck. Okay, so you should have gotten 1, 5 as your vertex, and x equals 1 as your axis of symmetry. Okay, so why don't you guys go ahead and see if you can graph that on your own. Remember, your axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. You're going down, so remember what pattern you should use, okay? Pause the video and good luck. Okay, and there you go. So remember, that was down 2 over 1, down 8 over 2. Now, if you have any questions or need extra help, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, your homework is on the back. Okay? So this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra 2, Unit 4.7 Notes, Day 2. Thanks for watching.